you can split them up anyway now. So it's just a matter of the training has to be there for the faculty to know how to do that.
Okay.
And that's not there yet.
All right, great. We're going to go to the next person, please.
Hi. I'm Karen Sorensen with 21st Century Education. And actually my question is in reference to the Horizon report that came out last year. And I hadn't really heard any panelists talk about that. And really what they were saying in the Horizon report, is anyone up there familiar with, is that, you know, in the next year, well, mobile learning, okay, we kind of have that. We can argue about the device, which is going to come through a tablet or a smartphone. We're looking at ebooks. But also, too, what we're having is open content in this next year. And I have not heard that. I've sat here for the majority of the day talking about open content and having students getting access to that open content. So I'd like to kind of hear some responses on that.
Please, and then perhaps Sean or Bill.
We have that in our digital content repository that we deliver directly through Epsilon. So what that is it's not just New York Times content. It is our content back to 1851, but not just articles. It's also primary sources. If you're doing a lesson on Gettysburg, we were there, we covered it. So you can read the coverage of the Gettysburg Address, but you can also pull up the 3 versions of the Gettysburg Address in Lincoln's handwriting and work with students through those 3 versions. You can pull up open access and the Open Commons and bring that directly into the classroom as well.
But I'm guessing you're asking about open content to supplant as opposed to supplement.
Right.
You're looking for, with due respect to the folks that represent the textbook industry here, you're looking for ways that you can provide content so your students don't have to buy books, right?
Well, I mean, it's not that I don't think books are not valuable.
Books are wonderful.
You know, there certainly is open content. And really what's allowing the student to do is create their own learning environment and creating their own rich environment. And, you know, there's a difference between putting a book in front of somebody and somebody going out and finding that information about a question and getting it from a variety of different sources. And I think, you know, in terms of the ebooks, I think you're seeing that. I mean, you know, they're wanting to find more information or what have you, but really that's sparking the creativity and the curiosity that we need to move this country forward.
Okay. Yeah, I think, you know, from a publisher perspective, I mean, the reality is open content has been available for well over a decade, and it doesn't have the utility as being just out there ubiquitously. And, you know, I think the learning is that the right way to do it is a mix of open and quote, closed content, some organizing principle, but then the ability, as you point out, for the user, for the student, for the faculty to go out and to integrate that content into a structure. And as we think about, you know, what the next generation learning platform will look like, it is going to likely be a mix of both open content, or the ability for the user to access open content, as well as an organized pedagogy that can be configured for whoever's using it.
Yeah, to Bill's point, we've always had a lot of faculty who've gone to do their own mashups that supplement. That one seems to be pretty well established in terms of whether it's the initiative of individual faculty members or students. But there is another growing open content movement, which is the one that wants to supplant as opposed to supplement traditional course content from third-party providers. I'm going to move us along. Sir, your question.
My name is Anil Soleti. I work for Verizon. I do volunteer and teach students every week. So I've been in touch with students who use a lot of these systems. But what I was thinking is, how are these learning systems making the APIs available to entrepreneurs to make new solutions and integration work much faster, so that it becomes to a mass students at the scale that we need? Because if it is a one-point solution, it is not scaling at this, in the timeline that we are looking at. So any comments on how you guys are approaching that would be helpful.
Well, I would say from our perspective, our platform does have a fully developed and robust set of APIs that we do make available to partners to integrate into their systems. You know, we do provide the ability for faculty members or partners to take content and integrate it into a contextual environment so it can be used in that environment.
My question was mostly to see how those can be opened up for individual, startups who doesn't have the partnerships and all the investments that they need to make. but they have new ideas to bring it to the
So I think
community.
that's a perfect question for me, because what Marvell is driving, if you go to the Marvell website or Mobilize, is we're letting developers buy, gigahertz, state-of-the-art, modern development system tablets for them to do this type of development work at $200 price points for single unit, right? And then when you do a mass deployment, then you get the economies of scale, and you can deploy in the classroom at $100 a unit. And that's what we're trying to do to enable exactly what you're saying, these startups, these entrepreneurs, these software guys that do development.
One thing that we need to focus is this content, which is like, which needs to also be opened at the same time as the systems that you are talking about from the hardware side and from the software
Yeah, so I would
side.
expect the developers to be either content providers or software teams that are partnering with these content providers to put them on these platforms.
Felice, you want to do?
Sure. On the Epsilon platform, if you go onto that platform, every single student, faculty, anyone with a .edu or that can get access in, gets a free e-portfolio system. And once you have that, you have the access to do the group collaboration, get it content, share content, do peer evaluation, and publish on your e-portfolio. So we've built part of it so that it is very protected and FERPA and ADA Section 508 compliant and all of the things that an institution wants to protect. But there's a part of it that's built on that idea that there is a much larger community, and rather than the legacy systems that are single instance that keep you in siloed and sort of treat you as a single transaction, why not open up a good part of this to the world, to the global community, where the exchange of ideas really does happen?
Okay. For the panel, I want to come back to the elephant in the room, at least one of the elephants, and that's the issue of cost. Good, bad, or otherwise, the publisher industry has been attacked about the cost of content. We heard some of that conversation not as an attack, but just that's the lay of the landscape in some of the panels earlier today. The GAO report, it's an easy and big target. For those of us, for many of us, regardless of the age, there's always the inference that some increment of technology will bring down cost. Is that a reasonable inference? Is that a reasonable expectation that, in fact, technology is going to, that on the content side, we're going to see the same cost reductions that we have seen on the hardware side? The kind of Moore's law, if not some version of that, maybe not at the same exponential levels, but is it a reasonable expectation, reasonable inference, that as we move to digital, we are going to see dramatic declines in the actual cost of content that students buy for their college or K-12, or districts buy for K-12. I want to move through this real quickly.
Yeah, and I'm not sure it's a reasonable inference to make or conclusion to draw that costs are going to come down. Right?
Okay.
And one of the reasons I think was brought up at the tail end of the last panel, for those of you that heard it, at the point in time where we are in the development of the market right now, content producers and platform providers and other players in the ecosystem are making significant investments to move from one world to another. So, prior to getting its scale, I don't know that it's reasonable to assume that costs are going to come down.
Can I assume in 5 years they're going to come down, Sean?
I don't know about that.
All right.
I don't know that I'm willing to make that prediction. I also would say, and I'll defer to the publishers in the room, although I have been involved in publishing my entire career, the smallest portion, or not the smallest portion, but a small portion of the cost of publishing is in actual infrastructure of printing a book or printing a newspaper or things of that sort. The editorial cost is
huge.
The real cost, and it's low double-digit cost that goes into the platform. It's high double-digit cost that goes into the editorial, and the editorial is going to be the same.
You've got to recover that all in the first sale because there's no subsequent recovery.
Well, I think the point I was trying to make there, Casey, is that the editorial cost is going to be there regardless of the technology.
Right, okay.
Yeah, so,
But if you can sell more units that are digital as opposed to the one-time sale of a physical unit that gets sold other times with no revenue, that offers the possibility, maybe.
That's an entirely different debate, but you're right.
Okay, Felice?
I think if you're going to have, like in our instance, a news gathering organization, or you're going to try to have the highest quality content, I think it's going to cost. But I do think things are going to get more reasonable, and but part of that is going to be based on how we deliver it into the environment. If we're always saying that you must buy the entire newspaper, lock, stock, and barrel, the entire book, lock, stock, and barrel, even if you're only going to use chapter 4, 5, 6, I think we're setting up a different model. I think if we can look at how we distribute content and how we bundle it and integrate it in with the other services and platform that we're providing, it can be more reasonable than it currently is.
Okay. Bill?
Yeah, I mean, I think that you referenced Moore's Law, and Moore's Law